Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. If I'm going to be flat out honest with everyone, I have no idea how I'm handling all of this emotionally. Today was such a wild sports day. You see the Sixers eliminate the Raptors. You see the Eagles add Jordan Davis and trade for A.J. Brown. Hello, Howie Roseman. Thank you very much. What a solid first day for the Philadelphia Eagles. And, of course, I am not going to forget about what happened early this afternoon where the Phillies swept the Rockies in a 4-game set and once again took advantage of their miserable defensive play. But I'm all here for it. Now they're back to 500. I'm not accustomed to making shows or doing live streams with 3 teams involved and my emotions poured out to all of them. It's just normally 1. But come on now, what the hell just happened today? That was magnificent. That's the beauty of what it's like to be a sports fan. When you get that overload, it's magnificent. But where we have to begin is what the 76ers did. And it's not surprising to me. There's a reason why whenever Raptors fans tried to make me feel uncomfortable, I just kept going down the same path, which was there's a reason why teams do not come back down 3-0. There's a reason why this has never happened. Say what you want about Game 4 and Game 5, but I'm not going to throw away what happened in Game 1 and Game 2. Game 3 was a toss-up, but could have went either way, and the superstar Joelle Embiid in this series delivered in a big moment, which I'm not going to pretend isn't a big deal. But okay, if you want to make the argument that Game 3 was a coin flip, well, the team that had the superstar, let me say it one more time, the superstar in this matchup was the team to win. That's not surprising to me. But my point is, while there was fear in some Sixers fans' eyes on what's going to happen on the road in Game 6, I brought up Game 6 against the Atlanta Hawks last year, where everyone had the Sixers ruled out. They lose a home game, Game 5. Everyone's feeling, what's going on here? I'm nauseous. Just like after the Sixers went up 3-0 in this series, they fall in the next 2. With a blink of an eye, things can change in a playoff series due to tone. Look, 3 of the 4 wins were fucking blowouts. Like, they weren't even close. This series was not as close as the 6 games will tell you, or the vibes heading into Toronto tonight will tell you. The Sixers blew them out, and it wasn't even competition for 3 of the 4 wins. I loved what I saw early on because I wanted to see how they would come out and fight early on, right? That's what it was going to be about, weathering the storm and reading the body language. If they go down 10 and they're fighting uphill, there's the uphill battle, and they really have to earn and scratch and crawl, well, then I wasn't going to feel that sharp. But they went toe-to-toe. It was a 1-point game going into half, and then the third quarter, Tyrese Maxey exploded. Joelle Embiid with 33 points. The defensive emphasis that was on the Sixers today, their mindset was night and day. Joelle Embiid with the 3 blocks. You didn't see that easy same scoring and that easy same penetration. It seemed as if the Sixers were locked in from tip-off, and I can't say that's how it was in Game 5 when they were at home and it got ugly and it looked like they didn't even feel like competing. It didn't feel that way in Game 4 when the Raptors took their first game of the series after falling 3 straight and showing some sort of life, because it's always difficult to put away a team in 4 straight games. So when I saw this, I'm not surprised at all. I thought that it would change because what the Sixers did early on, that didn't go anywhere. Look at the outcome and the results of your players in all these wins. What it tells me is when Embiid goes off and Harden has a good day and Maxey is electric and Tobias is playing his role and Danny Green, if your starting 5 plays their role and does what they're capable of doing, they are significantly better than this version of the Raptors. And sure, the Raptors were in a circumstance this year where going to win the championship was not their motto. They're looking at this as a great step in the right direction on where their franchise is, and that's not a wrong mindset whatsoever. I like what Doc Rivers stated after the game, which is this was important for us. I give Raptors a lot of credit because we needed this as a team. We added James Harden at the end of the deadline. We needed to be pushed. They pushed us, and they got us into an area where we had to sack up. Of course, he didn't use those words, but that was the idea and the belief on what he analyzed after the Sixers handled business. And I think that that is a fair assessment. What he did in this game, tweaked some things, looked at what Joelle Embiid was capable of doing defensively. You talk about a zone. I just love Doc Rivers and the way that he accomplished the goal for Game 6 and had this team prepared to play in a hostile environment. I'll claim what I claimed earlier in this series, which is Toronto Raptors fans are absolute trash for the way that they treated Joelle. They'll never get any sort of media attention about it, but I love the fact that Joelle embraced it. He does the airplane, even though Pascal Siakam hits him with a mean elbow on the other end. And then once again, the fans start cheering for an injured player like they did in a previous series when they were playing against Kevin Durant and Golden State. But of course, like I mentioned, they don't get the attention. And, it kind of seems like, honestly, that this Game 6 game is already somewhat underneath the radar because of what the Eagles' moves are doing. Moral of the story is Toronto fans are absolute garbage, and that's reality of the situation. Danny Green, 4 threes, awesome. Tobias, 19 and 11. Maxey, the three. Oh, man, when he takes those threes and he's so deep, it's beautiful. 25 points, and by the way, 8 assists. Now, I never finished my doc point. There was something that really irked me, and that was the viral video that was going around during the media show, the media press conference leading up to this game in Toronto, where he said, that Magic team I had, and he goes through that 3-1 series lead. Shut up, Doc. I can't stand it. I cannot stand how he goes about business where, you know what you do when you get asked those questions, when you're in the moment that you're in, Doc? You say, that was the past. This is the now. I'm focused on this team. I've learned from previous mistakes. I'm in a different position now, and we're going to move forward with this bunch and look for a golden opportunity to close things out. Shut up about the narrative. I told you, he is hearing it, and he must be bothered and annoyed because the public perception on him is he blows big leads all the time. But you kept forgetting in this situation, while you want to look at a 3-1 and look at other circumstances where Doc has fallen, it's never been 3-0. So just because the series gets to 3-1 after it was 3-0, you can't just forget that it was once 3-0 and no team has ever come back. You can focus on the fact that Doc Rivers failed in other moments. I'll focus on history, which is no team has enough firepower to do this. It's hard. It's toxic. It's a battle. Sure, adrenaline rush is a thing, but then that fades and reality hits. When the Sixers play better, you're not even close to sniffing their jockstrap. That's what this series told me. I thought it would go 6. I didn't think it would have the tone that it had this series as a whole. I saw it go in 6 because I do respect the grittiness. But at the end of the day, the Raptors don't have enough superstar talent. James Harden? Yeah, that was great. He answered the bell big time. James Harden finished with 22 and 15. And that dunk in the first quarter, what? I thought that resembled what Danny Green did a little bit ago where he got up big time and you saw the monster reaction. James Harden getting up, that's everything I needed to know. What was James Harden going to look like? Would he be passive? Would he be looking up shots, passing up shots, constantly looking for his teammates instead of going downhill? Allen Iverson was pretty vocal over the last couple of days, whether it was John Clark, whether it was Mikey Miss, and I just wonder if, not only that, Joelle Embiid, after Game 5, mentioned that I didn't like maybe throwing it in Doc's way, but he did mention that this dude needs to be more aggressive. And it's not to the point where we need to demand 30, but what we need to demand is this stellar, excellent, timely shooting and timely aggressiveness while factoring in getting everybody else involved so Danny Green can get hot, so Tobias Harris can do his thing. Toby has been a dog this series. I have no idea what to anticipate against the Miami Heat. Kyle Lowry's banged up. Jimmy Butler's banged up. But so is Joelle Embiid. And I think he needed a couple of games where my number one problem with what I've seen with the Sixers over a little bit of time was really their mindset and their approach with the game. They just figured that they'd win. Really, games 4 and game 5, and maybe not as much necessarily game 4 because it's that hard to sweep a team. There's a reason why there's not many sweeps in first rounds and why we're baffled that the one that is as eye-popping as it is happens to be Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, the Brooklyn Nets against the Boston Celtics, who the Boston Celtics definitely are filled with pop right now and filled with some fire, and they're a damn good basketball team rolling at the right time. There's no better time to be playing as strong as the Brooklyn Nets are. But game 5 was just a miserable way to step onto the floor. They just assumed that the fan base would get them going and that the entire the organization and just the entire Wells Fargo Center is probably the proper thing to say here is they just assumed that environment would be what would push them over the edge. Just roll the ball out and everything will be just fine. But with game 6, the way James Harden was so focused and ready early on, I think that almost described what I was going to be looking for. And then, of course, the cherry on top was how much they outscored their opponent in the third quarter and in the second half. It was a takeover. Joelle Embiid learned how to play with this thumb. He had to grind through it. This is number 2. Number 1 was approach. Number 2 was, all right, Joelle Embiid had to learn what he can and cannot do with this thumb. We saw points in the paint explode for the Raptors in game 5. We saw them target Joelle and said, we will target you. We will attack you. We will go after you. And then their aggressiveness defensively at times, I thought, drew defenders out by the perimeter, easy blow by, and they were getting buckets that were nonchalant and disappointing. And of course, when it comes to turnovers, that was something that ate you alive. Now, there was a time where the offensive boards, it was brutal, but that's not going anywhere. Just remember that. This team, it's just a part of who they are. We've seen them play enough where there's no fixing that. There's no glue. There's no gorilla glue to stop that from occurring this season with this current squad. So you have to work around it. You have to limit those turnovers. You have to maximize as many defensive boards as you can. Other teams will get second chance opportunities, but limit them as much as humanly possible, even within that flaw, and work and grind your way. But everyone had their role, baby. Danny Green, Matisse Thybulle, poor Matisse. It's going to be fascinating how to rework him into everything. His defense is important on a team that is thin, but so is Danny Green's spacing. And what Danny Green has done this year, it's wild. Not just him, but Tobias Harris. 2 guys that have been mocked, and at times reasonably so, right? I mean, when you play that poorly and you are that bad, and it seems you are so damn washed, well, then you deserve the words that are said by sports fans in your current city that is unhappy with your production. Well, when the bright lights get hot and when you realize that everybody's watching around the NBA world, both of them in a lot of games now. It's not just one. It's a lot of games now. They have been consistently playing their role at a really sharp level. I know Danny Green missed a couple shots in game 5 that irritated people, but all around, I mean, he gave you 4 threes in that game and gave you the professional spacing that you were looking for. The Danny Green experience has been very important to the spacing and how this team has been able to operate. I took a screenshot of something I saw here where, oh, nope, sorry. I knew I took a screenshot. This was in regards to a couple Eagles things that I want to get to as well. But all around, yeah, I mean, I kind of figured that eventually the number game will play its course out. History's going to be made. History, I can smell it. I don't smell it. No one's ever done it before. They were 3-2 up after 5 games. It's a good position to be in. No matter what the circumstance was. It wasn't an ideal circumstance. Absolutely not. There is reality to this, though. What they did in the first 3 games, specifically the 2, to wax that ass, That happened for a reason. That wasn't a fluke. I can make the argument what happened in the previous 2 Raptors wins were more fluky than the dominance that was on display by Joelle Embiid and the Sixers. So you got your James Harden experience. A couple games we're going to nitpick and destroy because he wasn't good enough. A couple games where he did just fine and others truly stepped up. And then you got your game where he was a huge part and a big-time reason why they closed out as strongly as they did. And let's point out Maxey, who's been going through some growing pains in this series. There were some times where it was tough and they were really grinding, and it looked like Nick Nurse find a way to stop the bleeding and make sure they did as much as they possibly could to stop that speed. Well, Maxey in a closeout game was crushing big shots. His speed was electric. He was getting to the rim, and he got challenged by Doc Rivers again, questioning how many times your fingernails touched the back of the backboard, and called him out and said, "We need more from you, Tyrese," and he was awesome. So here's a 21-year-old in a closeout game on the road getting a masterful performance in there and really helped out James Harden and an Embiid with a nice role. Everyone really did have their nice role today, and it's really impressive when that's the case because you could see what the ability is and how much you can score and how much you could dictate the pace when that's the case. So I'm super proud of the Sixers. I'm not surprised. Am I relieved? I don't know if relieved is the right word. I definitely wasn't as nervous as some Sixers fans. As soon as Game 5 was over, I'm getting tweets thrown my way. I'm getting DMs on every social media platform, which, by the way, you should go follow, @BroadsMedia, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Sneaking up on 5K followers on Twitter. I greatly appreciate all of the support. But the reaction was, they're done. They're screwed. This is over. No, it's not. It's not. Have you watched NBA postseason basketball before? You cannot get sucked in to one game. You cannot get sucked in to 2 games. It could tell you a little bit of something, but you need feel. You need understanding of the matchups. You got to take the context that's given to you and then form a logical opinion on the substance that you are getting. What I saw was, wow, when the Sixers players perform at a high rate, the Raptors are lost and have no answer but to look at Nick Nurse on the sidelines who's bitching and complaining. It's not ironic where whenever they're getting crushed, he's just complaining the whole time because he doesn't have any other chance in hell on winning that game. That's when he's bitching the most. It's not, well, they're blowing them out because of the unfair calls, and that's why Nick Nurse is complaining. It's the Sixers are annihilating them and absolutely smoking them into the ground. And then Nick Nurse is just 5 years old, bitching like I've never seen a coach bitch before. And then that's what we're at. When they're winning, he's not complaining. He's not crying. It's a weird dynamic how it all played out. But I'm just really excited, and that obviously deserves the biggest appreciation of tonight, even though that there was a lot going on. So that's where that is. And I know the phone lines are buzzing. I know you're trying to chime in right now at 856-442-9805. I want to continue to get all my thoughts out on everything we saw, and then I'll rock your phone calls, of course, and speak to you all with the chat. But let's transition to what the Philadelphia Eagles did tonight. So Howie Roseman moves up and ends up landing Jordan Davis, defensive tackle, absolute weapon. This dude's a force, unbelievable, skill set ridiculous. I mean, this guy is going to stuff the run. He's not the biggest sack guy in the world, but what you're doing is you're replacing Fletcher Cox, someone who's been a key piece to the success of the franchise, who's getting older and doesn't have that same burst. You're bringing in a dude who's going to draw double teams consistently. You still have Fletch and you still have Hargrave right now at this very moment, but you're going to work him in and he's eventually going to take over. That bothers some out there because, oh, it's another luxury pick. You already have that position. Why not go after another position out there that you desperately need that is filling a hole? Look, when you get Jordan Davis available for it, you can step over the Ravens. This is definitely nothing to be upset about. He might might have some weight discussions that we could talk about. We've talked first and second down. Maybe he can continue to grow with some versatility. But this dude's a freak of nature, and there's so much focus that goes on him. Now, I was talking about a tweet earlier that I screenshotted. All right, when you look at this, the Eagles took the second most athletic draft prospect ever who won an award for being the best defender in college football on the national championship team. Nobody likes when he takes TCU. Nobody likes when he takes someone from Washington. Yet here you are taking one of the greatest that you can get in this draft in terms of, whoa, this dude's an athlete that doesn't make sense to the world with how ridiculous he is and the speed at his size and all of it. It is a wild concept on what this gentleman is going to be able to do. That's great for sure. And then Howie, out of nowhere from the top ropes, finds a way to trade the 18th overall pick and a third-round pick, 101 overall, I believe. Yes, 101, and gets you A.J. Brown. Signs him to an extension, 24-year-old who gets 1,000-yard seasons in an offense that's super run-heavy with Ryan Tannehill and one of the meanest running backs we've seen downhill in Derrick Henry, in that style of offense. To be fair, this team with Jalen Hurts is going to have an identity that's going to maximize a run game too and utilize what the quarterback brings to the table, which is the uniqueness with his legs and Miles Sanders and option plays and things of that nature. But I'm just telling you that this dude is a stud, and you can make the argument. You think of Calvin Ridley and how the chips fell with Howie trying to make the trade to land him. He bets on NFL games. He ends up getting suspended. You look at Christian Kirk and that contract. I mean, you landing A.J. Brown, 24, previous Pro Bowler. Now you sign him to 4 years, $100 million, 57 guaranteed. I don't care about money because you have Howie Roseman. It's nice to have that luxury. You're not accustomed to that if you're in an organization that's not very good at that sort of thing, and Howie Roseman is. And Howie Roseman, day one, obviously we don't know how all of this is going to play out, but we can rate and grade what we saw today, and what he did was A-plus moves. I don't understand how anyone could be upset with this. Jordan Davis is a game changer. He's a game wrecker. And this team was very limited with getting pressure to the quarterback. Once again, I'm fully aware that Jordan Davis is not a dude that's just going to go sack the quarterback. He can do damage to your center and push him back 8,000 feet and stop the run like any lethal talent can in this league at the defensive tackle position, if not even better and at the top tier percentile. But now you have Hassan Reddick, and you're just creating some more life and some more buzz with, all right, you have older play. We complained. There's some guys on this line that just doesn't have it anymore. Fletcher Cox is missing a step. I know you bring Derek Barnett in, but more for a different role. But there were times where you definitely looked at him as someone playing a ton of snaps and demanded a lot out of him, and that has not really played out into fruition as much as we would like to. But you're starting, if you don't see or starting to see this trend of replenishing this older talent that we've been very successful with, now they're hitting a part of their career that's somewhat dipping. You're replenishing those tools with Devontae Smith. Now you get A.J. Brown. You have a Jordan Davis. You bring in a Hassan Reddick, which at this point in his career still has some prime in him for sure. Just to look up his age fully, he is 27 years old, so still has a couple more years of burst in him before he starts probably hitting that wall, which is realistically in that 30 range or so is when we get that. I mean, in football, you talk about getting a second contract in its own right is a very difficult task to do. So you're lucky to be 27 and still playing, obviously, but you get my point. When you start seeing the wear and tear for some of these athletes that do last a little bit longer, it could play right towards that 30 area. And you're starting to just replenish and get some players here with some really great tools that can help. You still have 2 first-round draft picks for next season. And this offense right now, while we can have questions about who Jalen Hurts is and what they're all about with the passing game and Nick Sirianni, and I'm right there with you. I have no idea what to expect from Jalen Hurts this year, and that somewhat disappoints me. Now, I expect better than last year, but where at when you maximize Jalen Hurts in his second full year of starting? I don't know, but Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, you think A.J. Brown, and you got yourself some really nice complementary pieces to Nick Sirianni and what this offense could be. Remember, last year, sure, you can complain that they didn't win any games against really good teams, and I can't discredit that because you're right. I also think it's important to look at, though, a first-year head coach, a first-year starting quarterback in the first six games of the season, not really understanding much about the identity of your team. Well, now you have those 17 games to jump right here into season 2. Different pieces, different additions, so you're not the same exact squad, but there's a big difference from jumping into your first career start together and your first month and a half together compared to now having a little bit more understanding where if you don't start out as poorly or you don't start out as unaware with what your players are and what they are capable of doing, would you have a different start to the season, resulting in confidence early on, resulting in winning some games early on that maybe you didn't win last season to start things off because it was just a totally different environment compared to where you are at this season. There's a reason why we look at Tom Brady, and this is even the best to ever do it, so just keep that in mind. But every year with the Patriots, it seemed after, we saw so much greatness, they're starting off 2-2 in the first month. They didn't have the greatest September. Well, it's really difficult to say a team in September is going to be the same exact team by the time you hit your stride into the postseason. So if it takes the greatest of all time at certain situations to go through that, well, you imagine it's also realistic for first-time head coaches and first-time quarterbacks to do the same, and we'll see what that means. That also says that, well, then, bro, it's possible that it is not as great as you want it to be early on this season, too, if that's the case. So why be so optimistic that it'll start out strong? I'm not saying it will. I'm just looking at it from a logical standpoint, which is they didn't really have a base at all. So it's really hard when you don't have a base at all. Now there's more of a base. There's more of a guideline. There's more of a blueprint. But at the same time, if the best to ever do it, who had a blueprint for years, sometimes still starts out slow. Yeah. But anyway, that's sort of where I'm at with that. I'm just super excited. I think that these two additions that you got and the two choices that you added to the Philadelphia Eagles today are ones that are going to be great and a huge help to everybody involved and the culture that is being built with the Eagles. So when everything happened with the Birds, when you had to move on from Carson Wentz, and it seemed like it was a catastrophe internally with drafting Jalen Hurts, and you're just firing Doug Peterson, and you're bringing in Nick Sirianni, and he had the goofy press conferences, and there was so much happening, it felt like it was falling and collapsing right in front of our eyes. There was something that I asked for, and I knew it would take a bit of time, and they were pretty open about it. And I know you can't trust everything that they say because there's a lot of smoke involved, 1,000%. And there's trying to, leak information to get certain storylines out there. But they were pretty open about, we are going to be aggressively retooling and we're going to be restructuring this thing while still staying competitive. And they're doing that right now. They're doing exactly what they described. But what I asked for was, let me see your plan. Let me see it. If you're starting to make moves and it takes a little bit of time to reshape things, but I could get behind the logic and the ideas and the beliefs of what you're selling, well, then I'm here for it. Now we're seeing them stockpile first-round picks, and we're seeing them trade out of first-round picks and trade up with first-round picks. And, just seeing how they were maneuvering through, you could see their plan. They don't fully believe in Jalen Hurts. That's something that they're trying to say publicly that they do, even though we know the name of the game there. Once again, context matters, and when they tell you that they're retooling and reshaping things a certain way, you could believe it based off of their current situation and use the context of where they were to understand that that's true. And then when they say that Jalen Hurts, we believe in him and he's our guy, we can use the context of these draft picks getting pushed back to next year, looking at this year's draft class compared to where the anticipation is for next year's draft class, to know that that is a smokescreen. You got to have the bullshit meter up there, and you can tell when you kind of study and analyze things. So with Howie there, I can see the game plan. He's getting some really strong pieces. He's getting some good proven talent involved in as well with A.J. Brown and Hassan Reddick. You're replenishing the farm, if you will, with younger, hungrier talent. And on top of that, you're stockpiling some picks to look for a quarterback down the road if Jalen Hurts doesn't grow and blossom into the quarterback that they need him to. So they're giving themselves a security plan to go and snag that player possibly in next year's draft and make some splashes there. I can get behind it. I absolutely 1,000% can get behind it. And you should feel excited that Howie Roseman is the one in charge because there's a lot of disasters out there in this league. Speaking of disasters, you've seen the difference between the feel of a New York Giants draft today compared to when Dave Gettleman was involved. And Joe Douglas as well. Let's give some credit to Joe Douglas. It's pretty interesting, right? When you look around the league, and I know it's not common knowledge on some of these front office members, but teams look around to hire front office members from the Eagles every single year. They lose guys every single year because other teams around the league, they want a piece of the Eagles' success. They look at the Eagles and go, they know what they're doing. They know how to operate. We're going to start plucking from their tree. Now, Howie Roseman loses some guys underneath. They go around the league a little bit and they get some exposure there. Joe Douglas with the Jets. I mean, people pluck from the Eagles. They are highly regarded as an organization to respect. I think you lose sight of that when you're involved in the trenches and you're upset with a Rager pick or you're upset with the Dillard pick. Not that you're not allowed to be disappointed when you fail and miss out, but there's also something to be said about do the math, do the research, see how other GMs fail way more miserably. You just don't care about them, and I'm not telling you have to care about them. The Eagles are ran very well, has a ton of structure involved from the top down, and nights like this just is a refresher when you think about the logic behind some of their moves that make a lot of sense to me. Okay, and lastly here, before it is up to you guys to continue this fantastic conversation, which we always do. I don't know why I said it like that. It's up to you guys to continue great conversation. That is just horrendous grammar by me, or a bad statement. When we pass the show along to you at 856-442-9805. The Phillies swept the Rockies. The last we spoke, they won their first two games. They won Game 3, 7-3. They won Game 4, 7-1. And Zach Wheeler was great in Game 4 of the series. 6 innings pitched, only allowed 1 hit. The movement on his pitches were dynamic. He did walk a couple batters, but he was flirting around the plate for majority of the night. That was the best Zach Wheeler. Not so much 97 miles per hour with fastball and all, but you saw 95, 94, and the movement and the zip on the pitches is what stood out to me. Bohm's hitting home runs, and it's funny, whenever I say something about Bohm, I swear it's going to happen to you. So I go, this guy can't defend. What the hell is going on? He's making barehanded catches and excellent plays defensively. Then I question, are we ever going to get power from him, or is it just going to be, not that it's bad, just 316 batting average, just over 300 batting. It's just over hitting 300, as if that's something to laugh at. No, but I wanted to know, is he a 10 home run guy? Is he a 20 home run guy? What type of power does he have? And then with a blink of an eye, I'm watching him the next game go yard and hit a bomb through the wind, which didn't make any sense at all, but that's what he was able to, and he's been crushing the ball. I've already stressed the exit velocity is mind-blowing, where you're seeing diving catches in center field, robbing him from another golden opportunity to add to the great statistics. So Alec Bohm is doing your traditional standard flip broads, the double bird, which is always a fun time to appreciate. Roman Quinn is out here bunting, stealing second, stealing third, and then eventually scoring. Is that not outrageous that that's what we're witnessing? I took a talk about screenshots. How about this for the Phillies' 7th inning? 10 batters at the plate, 1 hit, 4 walks, 1 hit by pitch, and 4 runs. Oh, there's no denying that the Rockies gave them these 4 games, but I think it's extremely important to note that you're now 500. You're rolling into the hottest team in baseball's building, if you will, their stadium in New York. It's your biggest rival. You despise the Mets. I'll take a 4-game sweep with some confidence. Look, I don't think they're dumb. I don't think they're stupid. Bryce Harper getting a lot of hits in this series. When he got his 7th, I'm fist pumping, right? He was awesome. 1 elbow. That's all he needs is 1 elbow, and he's raking and smacking the baseball around the diamond. I don't think they're smelling themselves and thinking that, the Rockies didn't hand them over spots, but McMahon's throwing the ball all over the field. I would like to see Rhys Hoskins get back going a little bit. I gave him his props in the first 2 games, but then he went 0 for 5 in Game 3. I need more out of Rhys. Ranger gave you 6 innings and 3 earned runs, by the way, in that 7-3 victory Game 3. Ranger gave you a chance to fight, a chance to compete. Now, Joe Girardi deserves a lot of credit, and here's why. Jose Alvarado was on the mound, and he ended up getting into some trouble. He goes to Sir Anthony Dominguez at the time, makes a pitching change, gets a big time, and I mean big time, double play to get out of the jam and keep the Phillies alive for them to, secure the victory as strongly as they did. That's a good decision on how he handled it there, got himself out of some adversity, put Sir Anthony in there. You want to talk about a sinker? How about Sir Anthony Dominguez and a sinker? How's that? I'm always foaming out the mouth about his slider in excitement, right? Like I'm drooling in excitement because of a damn slider. I'm looking at a sinker. I'm looking at ground ball. Wow. What is going on here? So your starting pitching seems to be more efficient, seems to be more comfortable. Eflin, Wheeler, Ranger, still trying to learn what he is, but at worst, he's a guy that can keep you involved in a game, giving you 6 innings and a couple earned runs. Hey, I'll take that if that's the worst that you're getting. DD's raking. Stubbs is hitting a triple. He's almost hitting a home run. So super fun, exciting weekend from the Phillies. I know that's a lot. I basically went 35 minutes there just expressing how I'm feeling on all angles here. This weekend's going to be massive for the Phils. I'm super pumped up to see how they handle this environment on the road after having the series against this same Mets team at Citizens Bank Park just a little bit of time ago. And the Mets have a personality to them. They're also getting beamed and hit a lot, and they're standing up for one another. They're getting in fights. Pete Alonso's getting drug into the ground. You got Buck in the managerial position. So, and there's going to be some interesting pitching matchups in this series. This is going to be a damn good weekend. I do have a wedding on Friday night, so unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to get a Friday night show. I don't know. I don't know. I'm pretty pissed that it falls. Congratulations, Jibs. I'm very happy for you to get married, but maybe you should look at the Philly schedule beforehand, and maybe it could have been against the Rockies when you knew that they were abysmal defensively. Maybe that's when you get married, so bros can make sure I get everything I need to when it comes to my, my enjoyment here for a nice Philly series. But I digress. All right, 856-442-9805. That's the phone number. Let's hear from you. There's a lot to cover. Wow, what a day. Hello, welcome. You're the first caller. Thank you so much for taking the time to call in. You are on Broads Media. Hello.
Broads?
Yes, hello.
What's going on, man? I wanted to rotate this back over to the Sixers.
We can do that. What's up, man?
Man, I mean, going into this, I was not feeling good. I was thinking I was going to Game 7 at first, but we needed this.
Yeah, but were you feeling that way strictly because you were setting yourself up for not like the reason why you feel emotionally negative towards your team most of the time is you don't want a heartbreak. You don't want to feel that pain. So you're setting yourself up for the worst case scenario. So if it does happen, you convince yourself that, I knew this was going to happen the whole way. Was that your idea behind thinking it was going to 7?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, last year, me and my dad, we went to the game against the Hawks, and they blew the 26-point lead. We were at that game, and after that, and then they lost the series. But
yeah, but you got to be better than that, though, because when you look at this game and you look at this series and you look what happened when the Sixers were rolling and they were playing bad basketball, but we've also seen them play super sharp ball where you knew the numbers. The numbers will play itself out where there's a reason why no teams have ever come back 3-0.
Yeah. I think that, we could thank the Raptors. It was a major wake-up call. That's for sure. It was a wake-up call, and we needed it. And I feel like what we've seen out of Maxey in the clutch is absolutely phenomenal coming out of a young player, second year. But I think James Harden's aggression early was exactly what we needed, and I think that got us kicking and rolling during the beginning of the game.
It definitely did. Appreciate the phone call. You had your primary point guard establish that he was going to be a downhill player. By the way, he had a couple nice how-do-you-dos there with some breaking down defenders. You talk about the step-back three. That's always exciting. So you saw that out of James Harden. When you look at the Sixers, though, you can't fall into the trap of, I'm going to plan to tell myself it's going to be awful. So then if it is, I set myself up the way I wanted to. That's a bad way of thinking. The Sixers were not going to lose this series. They've done too many good things when playing well. You talk about a learning curve and a learning moment to the series, and you're right. There are definitely things to take away, and that's why I always emphasize players growing from playoff failures because it stings more than wins. The real game out of these six, there was one game that really was a smack in the face. And to be fair, one game in a 7-game series is very important because that could be the difference in winning or losing a series. It can come down to one game. That is the truth. Now, when you're up 3-0 and that game tends to happen in a Game 5 situation, it's not the same as if it's a 2-1 series and that one game that you pissed away and you didn't do the things you needed to now puts the opponent up 3-1 instead of 2-2. Now that is where it could be extreme and really hurt you a further distance. The Game 5 approach is what needs to change. So if they ever have a similar scenario, up 3-1, and it's Game 5, obviously this time a Game 5 would be a different circumstance now that you're playing Miami. But you can't just piss it away. You can't just think it's going to be great and dandy. Now, this is going to be tougher, no doubt. The difference is, and it's not really different because Toronto was banged up too, where is the health status of the Miami Heat? What do they have? And what version of Jimmy Butler do we get? Do we get the big night that he had in the first series? Big time night? Or do we have the 2% from 3 Jimmy Butler that we saw in a lot of the season this year? It's going to be fascinating, and I'm pumped up to see how it goes. Let's go to our next caller. Hello, good evening. You're on Broads Media.
Hey, Broads. What a great day for Philadelphia.
You're absolutely right. This is one of those days where it's been a while since the level has been this high of joy, right? The Flyers have sucked our souls this year, and they've been abysmal. I can't even believe there's still a hockey game to be played, but there is still a hockey game to be played. One more left for them. The Sixers at the end of the regular season, I know it rubbed people the wrong way how they were playing, and obviously the Eagles, it's been a little bit of time, but the last time we saw them, they lost a football game by a lot and got embarrassed. So it's been a while since all of the action has been so successful in a short amount of time.
Yeah, definitely have a smile on my face. So I just have 3 quick bullet points from the Sixers game.
Okay.
Number 1, the refs can suck my dick. Number two, kudos to Doc. I thought in the second half he made some really great defensive adjustments, which I never thought I would say Doc Rivers was adjustments. And number 3, please, with a cherry on top, use that high pick and roll as your staple butter offensive play. It just opened up the whole game, cutting lanes open. Maxey was able to drive and use his speed. So I hope if they do that, they will have a really good chance against Miami.
Absolutely, man. I want to go over some of the points that you laid out there. So the referees, were the referees bad? Yeah, I mean, that's the NBA, unfortunately. Yes, the referees had their bad calls. They had their fine calls, and the refs are what the refs are. You know, when you have it so blatantly obvious that the coach of the other team is so damn annoyed with it, it somewhat takes away some of the actual play, and now the emphasis is so much more on that because he's highlighting it because he had no other option option. I mean, think about it. With no Fred VanVleet, they won a game barely having a point guard. I mean, that's just not a sustainable way of winning basketball games. And I somewhat got laughed at a bit because when they lost Game 5, I didn't show the same level of panic. Now, I wasn't feeling phenomenal A+ about things. I wasn't thrilled that it got to Game 6, but I just couldn't throw away everything they did so solid. And knowing that it seems to get sucked down the road nationally, where when one thing occurs in a series, that's now the staple of the series. And it's just not true because you just saw today that the Sixers annihilated the Raptors. This wasn't even competition. That second half came along, and it was a 20-point game with the blink of an eye. 20-point game. Maxey, bang. Every time the Sixers needed an answer, bang. Or not really needed an answer, but just continued to go down the other end, and their possessions were being drilled. It was great. It was excellent. 3 of the 4 wins. 3 of the 4 wins. And then the third win of the series happened to be a clutch big shot. Now, there's a lot of Raptors fans out there that is very annoyed that the Sixers are as happy as they are. Why? Oh, because you're going to lose anyway in the second round of Miami. Stop it. All right, stop acting as if getting to the next round is now all of a sudden something we shouldn't admire or appreciate just because they could go 7 games with Miami and end up losing. They had the same. When you look at the records in the NBA this year in the regular season, not that that means everything in the world, but if you look at the NBA standings, I'm just saying in a hypothetical world. All right. The Miami Heat, who was the number 1 seed at 53-29. The 76ers were 51-31. So there was a 2-game difference between the Sixers and the Heats. To act as if these two teams went 7 games and the Sixers were to lose, that's supposed to be like mocked at. That they beat the Raptors in the first round, get to the second round. That's supposed to be something I'm supposed to feel upset about. I'm not supposed to be happy. I'm not supposed to be thrilled that my team won a series. Instead, I should sulk in it and not just admire the moments. Of course, we all have bigger aspirations. Of course, we want to see this team get to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 20 years. It's been a long time. It's been a long journey. And I have no idea how to feel right now in terms of this battle, but it's going to be a long one. It's going to be a tough one, and I honestly believe that it could be a coin flip. Health is a big topic of conversation with all of the big-time players in this series. Joelle Embiid's thumb, Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry. Everyone said the Raptors had the better coach in this series. Well, that didn't matter. Now, Eric Spoelstra is a better coach than Doc Rivers. Is that going to matter? I don't know. It depends what version of James Harden, Maxey, Tobias, and Joel Embiid that you get. If they play as good as they possibly can, they could win this series. I think Miami has more to work with in terms of matching up, which would make it more interesting. But beating you and having a hard, tough, respectful series in the next round is not something that I shouldn't appreciate just because you're disappointed your team failed. I think that that's foolish. Back to the phones we go. Hello, you are on the air.
What a day. What a day. We just can look at it from the Phillies pulling off the 4-game sweep, Sixers using a dominant second half to get by Toronto, Eagles trading up to get Jordan Davis, trading for A.J. Brown. What a day.
I know. It's almost one of those nights where I'm probably going to go back upstairs after all this is said and done. I post the podcast up and all that, and I'm relaxing, staring at the ceiling, and there's an adrenaline rush trying to somewhat refresh my brain on what the hell just happened, because it was a ton. But all positives, all this positive at one time? Come on, that's beautiful.
Exactly. This doesn't feel like, anything Philadelphia has ever done before. But a couple of things I just want to hit on real quick. One thing with the Sixers, give credit to James Harden after Joelle Embiid called him out to say that he wanted to be more aggressive. And as you saw, he was, attacking the hole instead of, passing out, being that quote-unquote facilitator as he's been, since he's gotten to Philadelphia. And now today, as you see, he was throwing down dunks. He was attacking the hole and actually putting up more shots. He was shooting efficient, 7 for 12. Also threw out 15 assists as I'm looking here, 22, 6, and 15. Those are great numbers. If you can get that from James Harden, you're not expecting, 2018-19 Harden where he can put up 40, 50 a night. If you can just get him to be a nice complementary piece to Joelle Embiid, you have a chance every single night you step out there as long as those two are producing. And some of your other guys like Tyrese Maxey, who was hitting shots from out of back in Philadelphia, it felt like. Tobias Harris playing well, Danny Green knocking down shots, and you also have to get that bench production as well.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of great stuff there. I appreciate your time and that you called in. So I don't want to go negative after you were praising how great James Harden was. I talk about the James Harden lifestyle and the experience as a fan of us watching James Harden. Today was excellent. If you want to look through, and I'll pull this up right now so we can kind of go over it, you're going to get these nights. But something you referenced was if you can get this version of James Harden, you will. But it's also going to come with a game like he gave you in Game 5 when he had 15 points on 4 of 11 shooting and 7 assists, and he looked awful. In a total of 7 games where James Harden is in his career right now, he is going to flirt these games in here. I've just seen him play enough with this team where it's inevitable. It's just come down to what happens when that's the case. Is that a night you sneak out a win and grind it out with the skin of your teeth, and Embiid drops 40 and gives you 14 rebounds, and Maxey gives you 28 while Tobias gives you 24, but James Harden only gave you 3 of 14 shooting or something along those lines? And you'd imagine if it got that ugly for him shooting and all these other guys are hitting as much as I labeled, then the distribution would be more of an effect and his passing would go up and he finished with something like 15 or 16 assists or something outrageous like that. But you get my point, which is Harden is going to have a bad night that we're going to be upset about. And then he's going to have a night like this, and he's going to have some average nights. It's what happens with Joelle on those nights that he's off, or on those average nights. What is Joelle's night like? I would love to demand for James Harden to be this all the time, because this changes who you are, and this changes the flow and the ideas and the concepts that you could run and the effectiveness of them. But I think I'd be a fool to think that that's going to happen every night. You're going to get average to good Harden most nights. Average to good Harden most nights. You'll get a great Harden in there, and you'll get a tough Harden in there over a 7-game window. I think that that's a fair expectation. I want more. Trust me. I want more. But I think we have enough data. And I'd love to be proven wrong. Please let this be an Alec Boehm scenario where I'm getting flipped a double bird and James Harden is 22 and 15, this efficient, and he's able to play a good pace and knock down threes and hit those timely shots and drive to the basket. I don't know if I could expect the dunk to go down the way that he did as he threw that puppy down. I almost fell over. That was insanity. I just think I kind of figured out this version of James Harden. And you could do some lethal damage with this version as long as the other pieces hold their end of the bargain. He facilitates very well. His IQ of the game is very, very strong. He sees the court well, and he plays such a professional, sound game. So it's not just about the efficiency and the shooting, because he does a lot of other things. But when he does have that going, mixed in with the passing, game changer. It's a game changer. Back to the phones we go. Hello. Thanks for calling.
Hey, bros. It's Max from Indiana again.
Hey, Max.
Something I said last time I called in was if the Sixers come out and play their version of basketball, they're going to win. And they came out tonight and said, this is how we're playing tonight, and they won the game. It was simple as that. And along the lines of the James Harden experience, he had a plus 38 on the plus minus in the box score, which I thought was astonishing. And we can't expect that every game, but that dunk was something crazy and fun to watch.
It definitely was. I really appreciated the way that this team came right from the beginning of the game. You saw the Raptors had some life. You knew the building was going to be rocking. But how did it start? What was the first 5-6 minutes like? Not that if it was the first 5 minutes and the crowd helped the Raptors out and they exploded, that automatically meant the Sixers were going to lose. But the fact that they had every answer, the fact that they were going downhill, the fact that James Harden established himself early, I looked to the side of me and with the people I was with at the time, and it was that nod of acknowledgement of, all right, I could tell just based off of those first 3 minutes that they're ready to rock, and let's see how this puppy plays out. And by the end of it, it's a huge margin, and that third quarter really changed the entire pace of it all.
Yeah, I think the Sixers came out of halftime and thought it was a brand new game and said, it's a 1-point game now, but we're playing it as 0-0, and just took off and didn't look back.
Yeah, and I didn't even think. Thanks, Max. I saved your number now, so every time you call in, I can, acknowledge you because I appreciate all the times that you definitely call in. And of course, if you are going to be a frequent caller, you can definitely let me know your name and where you're calling from before you get into your rhythm of the call, and I will save. So when you do call back in the future, it's a little bit easier of a connection when you join the air. With the, I lost my train of thought, though, there with James Harden. Oh, the first half. I wanted to talk about the first half. It was a 1-point game, and they definitely looked different in the second half, but it wasn't as if that first half was anything bad. They had their moments, trust me. Both teams went on their run. You had the Sixers go on a nice run. You had the Raptors respond with a nice run, but then you had some good things involved in there too, like James Harden's persistency, and you think about Danny Green making some shots, some corner shots that were massive. I thought the first half were both teams playing well, and then the second half was, all right, we're going to take over. We're going to totally take their soul from them. And Maxey, of all people, wear and tear after a while, that speed exposes a ton. Not that there's many options around the entire league that could hang with the burst that he brings to the table, because it is ridiculous. And I don't know what teams are going to be able to do, because that speed is deadly. It's a deadly weapon for the Tyrese Maxey experience for the long run here of what exactly we're going to acquire when it comes to even more growth. Hey, here's 14% addition to three-point shooting. Here's free throws being doubled because he actually learned how to draw fouls and the contact and making sure that he's putting himself in positions to get hit. So when he goes up, he can bank it in off the glass and go to the line for an and one. All of those details that he's added. Just wait for it to get more and more and more on top of just everything that he does already. He finished with 8 assists too. It wasn't just the 25 points. He had 8 apples. The plus minus for James Harden, when I heard that number, when they were talking about it during the game, whoa. So it shows when he's locked in what he can do for your unit. He's washed. He stinks. He's not fully washed. He's not what he was. He's still great, though. He's still a player. When he plays well, it's great for your team. So if your expectations is Houston, well, that's foolish. But he does flirt the ugly ones in there, but just shows you when he doesn't have the ugly ones, that's why it's a frustrating conversation, really, it seems. Because the low is low and the high is wow. But what do you get night to night? I think there's question marks about the consistency of James Harden. I think that that's fair, right? The consistency. You just don't know night to night. I'd say more times than not, though, it's average to good. I think that that's a fair kind of viewpoint on it. Let's continue to rock your phone calls. Hello. Welcome on.
Hey, this is Chev from Northeast Philly.
Hey, Chad. What's up?
Hey, the low when Embiid's torn ligaments and he can't make passes. But today he was even pulling on his thumb, and that gave me hope.
Yeah, I figured the way that Joelle Embiid has played this year and even last year through the torn meniscus, he had some bad games with the thumb, but he also played NBA playoff basketball, giving you 40 points and playing extremely well on a 7'2" body frame with a torn meniscus. I thought that he was kind of learning and adapting and figuring out how to play with it. And then today, he just went killer mentality mode, didn't focus on it too much and just played the best he could. And you saw how much of a problem that caused for Toronto.
Right, go Sixers. It looked like, I don't know if they shot it up, but it didn't bother him at all, and that definitely gave me hope for the next series. Thanks, bro. It's great watching you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Joelle is going to have nights where his body language screams he's in pain, and then he's going to have nights where you don't recognize it as much. This is a different version of Joelle, though, when it comes to that. Don't you feel? This dude's wired differently now. He's physically matured, and he has mentally matured in a lot of different areas. How about him egging on that crowd? That's outstanding work by him. He puts his hands up to his ears while they're throwing the fuck Joelle chants or fucking beat, whatever they said, which is just hysterical. How many times do I have to tell you it is stupid and it's moronic to give someone motivation when they have the talent level of a superstar? It hurts you. It doesn't benefit you. When egging on a superstar, majority of the times, they make you pay. Now, Kyrie made Boston pay in that one heartbreaking loss by scoring almost 40 points. The Celtics still ended up winning, but you saw how it brought him to that next tier and to the next level. Embiid hears that. You don't think that fuels the fire? You don't think that adds a little bit of something to someone who already has a sense of urgency to crush your soul? Come on. You're a fool. You're an absolute damn fool. Crazy. How far can the Sixers go, bros? This is being asked in the chat by Daniel. How far can they go? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to move off of my stance on what we talked about since basically game 60 or so. The Heat, the Bucks, the Sixers, the Celtics, they're in a grouping. Who's going to come out of these teams? It could be anyone. The Celtics seem to be the hottest name right now. Middleton's banged up. There's a lot of guys injured at the moment. But you think about where they are right now. One of these four teams were in the discussion before we even got to the postseason. They all are going to be really grinding and really putting together a tough 7-game series. Celtics scare me. They do. Got to take it one series at a time. So how far can they go? I mean, I told you it would be labeled a positive season for me if they win the second round and at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals. That would be a great step in the right direction, thinking about Ben Simmons, everything that happened this year, moving on from Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, bringing in James Harden. I mean, it was a debacle what we had to go through where Ben was being a crybaby. And, I mean, this guy is a clown. The way that he gets dressed and then he doesn't show up anymore and his back's starting to hurt. And, I mean, this guy is an absolute fraud when it comes to being an athlete and a competitor. He wants to live the lifestyle without actually performing and doing the things that make you what you are when you are a famous NBA basketball player. He wants to be a famous basketball player without playing basketball. I hate to break it to you, Ben. That's not how this works. But every little tiny story that would eventually become a huge story and then would become a national story in regards to Ben Simmons early on at training camp. Remember, you had that fraud, Jason Dumas, or whatever the hell his name is, that would constantly, a Philly Bull, as he says in his Twitter account, although he's on Rich Paul's checkbook, or he's on his he gets thrown money by Rich Paul to make certain statements out there. Oh, the Sixers fans are going to be outside a Camden facility, and they're going to be saying mean things to Ben Simmons as he walks into training camp for day one. Oh, come on with that trash. Come on with that garbage. That's the best you could come up with, Clutch. And come on, Jason, you're better than this to actually run with it. Please. Please. If you were able to manage an Eastern Conference Finals appearance with everything they dealt with, I'd look at that as the positive. How far can they go? It's going to be a really, really difficult series for both of these two teams involved in the Eastern Conference Finals, or 4 teams involved in these 2 series left. But I'm excited to watch for sure. Let's go to Ethan, who's been waiting patiently. Yo, Ethan.
What's up, bros? How about them Sixers tonight?
I know. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that, and I'm happy this is the case, that a lot of the calls are going in that direction, because I'm excited about the additions the Eagles made, and obviously I flirted in the Phillies, not anticipating a lot of talk there, but it felt for a little bit of time that the Eagles overpowered what a great, solid, structured win that was by the Sixers.
Yeah, it was awesome that the Eagles got A.J. Brown, but I want to talk about Joelle Embiid. That man is such a badass. When they were chanting "fuck Embiid" and we saw those laser eyes in Joelle Embiid looking at that camera, I felt like I was looking at like Tom Brady or something when he's in like the huddle. He like had those laser eyes. It was amazing.
Well, that's what these athletes do that are at the top of their game, and they're the best to do it in the league at the top. I'm saying top 5 players. These top 5 players in the league, top 10 players that have these killer mentalities, when they can grab onto extra motivation, they do so. And Embiid with 33 points, it was a great dominant performance, and you could tell from the moment the ball was tipped, he was going to win that basketball game.
Yeah, also got to give a shout out to James Harden. Embiid and like all the talking heads called him out for like not being aggressive and everything. He showed up. He was aggressive. Ben Simmons would never do that.
Oh, Ben Simmons. Oh, Ben Simmons. I can't stand looking at that guy's face. I can't stand thinking about him. I can't stand anything Ben Simmons related. Oh, man. I mean, everything he tried to pull where, now you got guys like Jay Williams saying we should feel a little bit more sympathy for him, and we shouldn't go crazy about him, and we should kind of take it back a notch. And I'm sorry, do you see the way he dresses on the sidelines? Do you see the way that he draws attention to himself? He was the one that set Game 4 into the future. He was the one to tell the Nets that was their target date. He was the one that blamed Embiid and Doc Rivers and the Sixers organization for his failures. He was the one that blamed Brett Brown. He was the one that blamed every single person except for himself. And now all of a sudden we're going to give him a free pass because he's getting mocked for the fool that he is. He did this. It did not have to go this way. There is a cause and an effect in life. And when you do certain things, there is an effect based off of your reactions. That's what it is. I mean, we always want everyone to be involved with not just respect and respecting others, and he has disrespected everybody in his path when it comes to his NBA career, including the fans for being robbed of what a great athlete he could be, and he was just unwilling to max that. It's wild that NBA fans are more disappointed that he hasn't worked out than Ben Simmons himself being disappointed that it hasn't worked out. He did this, moral of the story. That's all I got on Ben. I can't do that. We had such a good day here. We can't end it on a sour note, on a bad athlete. We'll end on this note. This is from Rob Motti, and this is tuning it back into the Eagles. The last 2 times the Eagles acquired a Pro Bowl wide receiver under the age of 31, T.O. and Alshon Jeffrey, they went to the Super Bowl that season. Now they get A.J. Brown. And then he puts in a little bit of a disclaimer. Used age 31 Deshaun Jackson because he was 32 when he came back in 2019 and only lasted 3 games. Sorry, 3 games. So Deshaun came back and only lasted 3. But the other times, you got Alshon and you got T.O. I'm not saying this team's now going to go win a Super Bowl. All I'm saying is when they have added talent to that roster that they had at that respected time, with a T.O., with an Alshon, they get these bigger names. They have worked out more times than they haven't worked out. Just something to put in your back pocket. With that being said, I want to thank everybody so much for hanging out with me tonight. We covered a ton of ground for sure. If you are new to the channel, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and hitting that thumbs up button as well. If you're looking to buy tickets to go to any event out there, you can utilize the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout if it is your first time purchasing tickets there. SeatGeek promo code BROADS, that eliminates those fees. It gives you free parking or free booze when you're hitting into the stadium or the ballpark that you choose. Make sure you're doing that. Get yourself to a game today. And then lastly, TikTok at Broads Media, Twitter at Broads Media, Instagram at Broads Media. Thank you guys so much, and I will catch you later.